All right, so we're going to talk about partnerships in chapter 3. All right, so primarily what we're going to talk about is the law governing partnerships in this chapter, and then, of course, types of partnerships. And we'll talk about, well, no, not to steal my thunder, but that's how we'll proceed through the chapter. All right, so when we're talking about the partnership, the law comes from primarily from one of these three sources, right? And we're really talking common law and state law. There's not much federal, at least outside of taxation, that relates to the partnership. Okay, so common law as it relates to partnerships and contract law. Of course, contract law because the agreement to be partners is a contractual agreement. All right. UPA, which is Uniform Partnership Law. So think of UCC for partnerships. This is another model statute created by a body, actually the same body that created the UCC, or I should say same entity, different people, because obviously you're going to have subject matter experts that create different areas, but it's a uniform law on partnerships, and they have a conference and then send the result to state legislatures who can adopt in whole or adopt in part or not adopt. Typically they adopt in whole or in part with modifications. And revised uniform partnership law. So in our chapter, in our book, in our text, we don't see, if you see a reference to UPA, that's to the Uniform Partnership Act, or it could be to the Revised Uniform Partnership Act, our text really doesn't differentiate the two, but it was revised in 2013 with some minor changes. We're not going to go back and forth with the differences between the two. By and large, for our purposes, substantively, UPA and the RUPA are the same. Both represent state law because they have been signed and enacted by state legislatures. All right. So what is a partnership? All right, an association of two or more persons, note the asterisks, to carry on as co-owners of a business enterprise for profit. All right, so that's a partnership. Those are the elements you need, right? If you aren't operating for a profit, it's something else. All right, so what is a person? Any legally recognized entity. So be careful there, because oftentimes when we say person, we think of persons of natural birth. That's everybody in this class. That's you, me, and your mother-in-law, right? Every person that was of natural birth. But it also includes entities, all right, which could include corporations, LLCs, other partnerships, basically any legally recognized entity can be a partnership, can be a person in the formation of a partnership. So you can technically have a partnership formed by two corporations. All right, there's nothing legally, there's nothing illegal about that. All right, and that commonly does happen, particularly in the oil and gas industry. Oftentimes oil and gas exploration is very expensive, and it's not uncommon for even very large companies that you'd recognize like Shell or Chevron, Exxon. It's not uncommon for those companies to partner with each other for new oil field exploration, or more and more it's deep water drilling. For that reason, just because the initial capital outlay is staggering. All right, so they split it among companies and then split the back end profit as well. Required elements: sharing of profits and losses. All right. In other words, an employee who has a portion of his or her salary based on profit sharing. Say I'm a small business and I want my employee to be motivated that when I do well, he or she does well, so I offer 10% of profits. Well, that's not a partnership. That's profit sharing, because if my business loses money, I still pay that employee their salary. All right, so just sharing profits but not losses is not a partnership. All right. Joint ownership of business assets. All right. So the partners collectively own partnership assets, and equal right to be involved in management. All right. And the text does say equal, but it may be more clearly stated as right to be involved in management, because partners can negotiate or contractually agree that they have rights to be involved in management, but at differing levels or differing weights. Okay. Entity theory is our majority rule, right? And also for federal tax purposes. So the partnership is an entity separate from its partners that can sue, be sued, and own property. All right, that's entity theory. All right. Aggregate theory is an extreme minority rule. It has manifested itself on CPA exams in the past, but it's an extreme minority rule that the partnership is really just an aggregation of its owners, but not a separate entity from its owners or partners. All right.